Our guest today, Raviv Kramer. I told you to guess where he's working, and I'm sure you all guessed Mux Lab, where he is their new Chief Technology Officer and has been for only the last 6 weeks. Why don't we bring Raviv in and let's talk to him a little bit. Raviv, hello and welcome.
Hello, Justin. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. You're joining us all the way from your basement apartment in Jerusalem, I understand. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. It's quite
So
festive
no
out there in
big.
your office.
Well, yes, we try to keep things the spirit alive. No big Christmas celebrations in your town, I imagine. I don't know if they have a big tree like in New York there, but I hope you had a beautiful Hanukkah season, some time with family, with friends, and were able to relax and recharge a bit because I think you've got a particularly big year ahead of you. As I just mentioned to the audience, you've taken over as a chief technology officer at Mux Lab. So tell us what that's about. What drove you to want to try something new, and what are you going to try?
Well, this is very exciting. MaxLab has been a company in the business for almost 40 years. We've been doing solutions for the AV and the broadcast industry, and I'm joining as CTO, as you mentioned, 6 weeks ago, doing what I love doing, which is technology innovation with a brilliant team, and I'm very excited for this new journey.
Excellent. Well, that's great. So when I called you a few weeks ago and said, "Hey, come on the show. Let's find something to talk about," I discovered that you have a passion really for user experience and for thoughts about how do we create the kinds of experiences that are gonna I'm gonna tip my answer to my question here. How do we create the kind of user experiences that bring users back to the table, that leave them wanting more? Why is user experience such an important thing?
Well, in short, experience is everything, and everything is experience. So if you have a product with great user experience, you have a great product. And what I mean by saying experience, everything is experience. It goes from the big things to the small things. So in video calls like this, the natural things to think about, it's the video and the audio, but there are other components too that make up for the whole experience, including the lighting that we have in the system, even the air condition in the room, the seat I'm sitting on. So it makes for a whole big thing that we call experience that goes beyond what our industry has traditionally been calling experience in AV. So we need to think about all these things together of what makes an experience.
I have two questions. Are you experienced? Have you ever been experienced? Well, I have. Um, sorry. There's something stuck in my head. What are some areas that we in the AV industry have done a good job of user experience? Are any standouts for you?
Well, I think because we're an AV industry, anything that has to do with audio and video directly, we've done a very good job at making high quality video and high quality audio, which are essential to having proper video calls. Um, and then there's the other things that come in. So if you're talking about Zoom and Teams and other UC and the aspect of doing things beyond video and audio, it's about sharing content. It's about how I participate in a meeting if I want to raise my hand. So these things get answered, as time goes by. And I think we've done a great job in making Zoom and Teams and tools like that accessible to everyone because of the experience we as an industry have with these technologies. And I think this is where the opportunity lies in the future for our industry and specifically for the indicators of the industry of taking this whole bunch of products together and making for a great user experience for the people who aren't as familiar with AV.
Hmm. You're mentioning a few times video calls, Zoom, Teams, those sorts of things. The kind of system that we're using here. Um, and yet that's not, well, how do I want to say this? That's not necessarily the bulk of history of AV and of AV user experience. Certainly inside Pro AV, we've been doing video conferencing for a long time, but it's not been at the forefront of everything we do. It's not been something that spills out into the broader world. And where I'm driving with this question is a total left turn, but I'm thinking back to when Henry Ford said, if I asked people what they want, they would have told me they want a faster horse. They would have never come up with a car. So I'm wondering how much of good user experience necessarily comes from a long-term evolution, a refinement of things that exist, and then how often does good user experience come from someone throwing out the old rule book and the baggage that comes with it and saying, no, there's a totally new way to do this, like Zoom compared to an older video conferencing system. Where is that balance? Are they both necessary? Talk about that.
Yes, of course, they're both necessary, and I think it's very natural. So, when you give the example of Ford. So, with cars, we've seen the major evolution in cars. In the past century, how we have introduced more technologies into cars. Now we have power steering, we have automatic gear, we have AC in the car, we have comfortable seats, we have GPS. So all these things have been added, like you suggested, as a natural evolution of what we needed as users of a car. But sometimes things happen that make this a big shift. And I think we've seen this in the multimedia systems in the cars that have been drastically improved in the past 10, 15 years. It has become a new category within a car. So the multimedia system becomes something new altogether. It wasn't an evolution to something that had been before. It's something new. So you have to do both of them. And I think the way to do it is you need to be the user, right? If you become the user, you understand the challenges and what you can do to make for a better experience. Because in the end, UX is the art of making it comfortable. How can you make the lives of people
Oh
comfortable?
wow. One of the best product managers I ever had work for me. Um, what I thought he was so talented at was something I called user empathy. Is exactly what you're talking about. He could put himself in the shoes of someone experiencing this product that's being designed, and really, and before it was built, before it was there, understand where are the pain points going to be. How do I, soften those corners and edges and make this a better experience? That's great. Gosh, you said something about cars that sent me off on a question in my head that I've lost track of. Maybe we'll find it again. You talked about some good UX examples. Let's be mean now. Let's talk about some bad UX examples. What are some examples where the designers got it wrong and where that was important, right? Where that cost something.
Well, I think there's a very big example from our industry. More than 10 years ago, the 3D TVs. It was a great idea of introducing 3D to viewers, but something about the experience, about having to wear having to wear the
Like, what
goggles,
about the experience
uh,
in particular?
nothing. You look really cool. I mistaken you for Batman for a second.
I get that a lot.
Yeah. So it was a great idea, but just the execution, the experience in the end is what led to its unfortunate demise. And instead, we went on a different tangent. We went, upping, 4K and HDR, which I think makes for a better experience as a viewer than 3D.
Okay. All right. There you go. Um, we've talked about a couple of oh, you know what? I remember my car question and how I was tying in. You mentioned at the end of the evolution of automobiles, the most recent, sort of major UX evolution has been the multimedia systems, has been the entertainment systems, right? What I think that means, what it means for me personally, and what I've observed is more and more vehicles are taking advantage of these smartphones, right? And they're using Apple CarPlay, they're using Android Auto, and basically, to me, it feels a little like, and I think this is a good thing actually. It's the auto manufacturers kind of throwing up their hands and saying, you know what? We're not good at designing entertainment experiences. Not to mention, a car is supposed to last 5, 7, 10 or more years, and we know that electronic entertainment systems don't have that long a life cycle. So I think that bringing in Android, bringing in iOS is a great solution for the automobile. Now I'm reflecting on this in Pro AV and a comment I made before in the news segment on people being trained to expect the wonderful, well thought out by high end designers experiences that these phones, that these apps create for us. And I'm wondering, to what degree do we need to view that kind of appification from outside as a threat to the AV industry and to our well-being? And to what degree do we need to try and, like the auto manufacturers have, embrace it and just build systems that allow the phone to be a phone and do its cool things? What do you think?
That's a great question. I think that yes, there is a threat here
Thank you.
when when big players outside from our traditional markets step in, but it also introduces a huge opportunity because these players aren't as savvy in AV and traditional AV as we are. And we know about all the cool tricks about audio and video that actually helps them have a better solution. So this is why we've seen Zoom rooms. You have the suite of solutions surrounded that Zoom doesn't even aspire to develop on their own. So they're looking for the right partners to do it. And I think our industry is a perfect candidate for that. So it's an amazing opportunity for everyone.
Okay. It feels like we talked about a lot of big picture concepts here, right? 3D TVs and goggles, and how cars have good audio entertainment experiences. What about the details, right? The title of this show was "It's All in the Details," or "Get the Details Right," right? Yeah, I don't even know. I titled these shows. You'd think I'd remember. It says right there, "Getting the Details Right." Details, like what the hell's the title of my show? Um, where do the details come in, right? Where is it? How is it that the small things add up to make the user experience, or take away from it?
Okay, so it's easy to talk and it's obvious to talk about video and audio, but there are the hidden or sub-hidden parts behind this. For example, when we have a video call, the thing that you don't directly see is the lighting system, right? So if you have a good lighting system, it makes for a better video experience. Also, if you have a smart audio system, it can help reduce background noise. They are the things that are one one less obvious than the obvious ones, and you have all these almost invisible improvements that you barely feel, but it makes for a better experience. So these are the small things, and you can keep thinking of these small things. When you add them up, it makes for something completely different than what video calls used to be several years ago.
Yeah. We had a question come in from our audience before about it's important to build good UI design, good UX. Actually, we should talk about the difference between UI and UX maybe. We'll bring that for the after show because we've only got about 45 seconds here. How do you balance the needs for let's focus on building good user experience and let's make sure these users are trained to use the system? In AV, how do we find that balance?
So if you have better user experience, you require less training. This is kind of like balancing itself. Of course, I think you eventually will have to have training at every level, but a great UX makes for a natural experience, which is the best teacher.
Okay. Well, stay right there with us, Raviv. We're going to cut out to a different segment for now. We're going to come back in just a few minutes to the after show. 4.5 minutes, guys. Stay right there. Don't click anything. Just sit. Raviv's going to hang out right there. Get your questions in live at sdvoe.org. It's over there. And Raviv will see you in a few minutes.